The wind howled across the mountain trail, whipping snow into blinding sheets. Jackson Hale's breath came in sharp bursts, his boots sinking into the powder with every desperate step. Memories flashed. His wife's accident, the icy road that had taken her life, and for a brief, paralyzing moment, he froze. But then instinct took over. He ran. Every fiber of him screamed to reach the car ahead before it was swallowed by the storm. Snow and ice offered no guarantees. Jackson couldn't know if anyone inside was alive, but he remembered the agonizing wait for help that never arrived after his own tragedy. He refused to let someone else face that alone. The SUV lay crumpled against a ridge, its doors warped, windows shattered. Inside, a figure slumped over the wheel, barely moving. Jackson forced the door open, wincing at the screech of metal, and found her, Lydia Carrington, the formidable CEO of Pinnacle Technologies. Usually commanding boardrooms with a sharp smile and sharper mind, now she was fragile, pale, and trembling from a cold. Snow had plastered her hair against the temple, where a faint cut bled, and a designer coat clung damply to her frame. Without hesitation, Jackson lifted her into his arms. She was lighter than she looked, almost ethereal despite her corporate aura. Her lips moved, trying to protest, but only a soft shiver escaped. The blizzard had no mercy, and there was no way down the mountain safely in this weather. He headed for the only shelter he knew, an old hunting cabin tucked behind frost-bitten pines, a place he had once visited with his 10-year-old son, Ethan. He prayed the roof hadn't collapsed under the winter's weight. By some stroke of luck, it still stood. Jackson pushed open the creaking door and laid her on a pile of old quilts. The cabin had no fireplace, only a rusty metal stove, but he managed to coax it to life. Slowly, heat began to seep into the rooms, though the cold clung stubbornly to every corner. Lydia blinked awake, the weak afternoon light catching her damp hair and tired eyes. She tried to speak, confused, but her voice trembled. Jackson offered her a thermos of water and checked her pulse. Steady. She wrapped her arms around herself, shivering, her expensive clothes doing nothing to keep the cold at bay. Jackson found a thick wool blanket and draped it over her shoulders. She pulled it close as though it were her only lifeline. For a long while, silence filled the cabin. No boardroom discussions, no high-profile decisions, just two strangers, one struggling to survive, the other determined to keep her safe. Lydia's eyes softened, revealing vulnerability beneath the polished exterior. Jackson noticed the faint lines of exhaustion, the human cracks beneath the CEO armor. As the evening crept in, Lydia attempted to sit up. A wave of dizziness made her wince. Jackson moved closer, ready to catch her as she fell. That's when she whispered, barely audible over the whistling wind, "Can I stay under your blanket?" Her voice carried no flirtation, no hidden motive, only fear and the raw need for warmth. Jackson hesitated, not from distrust, but from memory, hospital sheets, loss, and the promise he had made to always protect, never cross boundaries. Yet this wasn't about desire. It was survival. Hypothermia recognized no corporate status. He nodded and shifted the blanket so she could lean against him. Her shoulder pressed into his chest, and he could feel her uneven breast gradually steady. The warmth spread, awkward at first, then comforting. Her perfume mingled faintly with the scent of wet snow, but underneath it was something unguarded, human, trusting. Jackson hadn't realized how long it had been since another person had rested against him like that. Not out of obligation, but simply for safety. Hours passed with little conversation. Eventually, Lydia spoke, her voice soft and raw. She admitted she hadn't truly rested in nearly a decade, ever since she inherited the company after her father's death. She confessed that years of relentless work had left her distant from herself, and that receiving kindness without strings attached felt alien. Jackson listened, sharing stories of Ethan, of the simple life he had built since his own tragedy, and of the quiet lessons grief had forced upon him: humility, patience, and compassion. He spoke honestly, without pretense or grandeur. He didn't try to impress her. He only offered truth. Outside, the storm raged, relentless, but inside the cabin, something shifted. The two of them, previously frozen by life in very different worlds, found a fragile warmth in shared humanity. Eventually, Lydia's body grew steady again. Her head rested lightly against Jackson's shoulder, breath slow and regular. He adjusted the blanket to make sure she stayed comfortable, and she murmured a faint thank you, as though exhaling years of built-up tension. When the storm subsided to a soft, almost deceptive calm, Jackson stepped outside. He fired the emergency flare he always kept in his pack. Its red streak cut through the gray sky, a signal of hope. Within the hour, rescue teams arrived. Lydia was taken to a nearby medical station, and Jackson followed to ensure she was okay. Part of him expected she would retreat to a high-powered life without a word of acknowledgement, but she didn't. The next day, Lydia sought him out. She looked polished as always, but softer, touched by the humility and trust of the night before. She thanked him, not just for saving her life, but for offering something she hadn't experienced in years, warmth and care without expectation. Jackson didn't know what the future held, but he did know that in a small cabin, trapped in snow, something genuine had formed, not romance or promises, but connection. Truth. Humanity. Lydia asked to meet Ethan. Jackson smiled, a quiet, shy grin. They came from worlds apart, but kindness and courage had built a bridge between them. And sometimes all two people need is a fragile, honest warmth that can only emerge when survival and trust demand it. Thank you for watching Classic Stories. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more stories that remind us how powerful compassion truly is.